So how do you react when you screw up? How do you act when you fail, when you make a mistake, when things don't go your way? You didn't get the appointment, you didn't get the date, you got the no, right? You didn't get the yes. Like, how do you react in that moment? How do you feel about yourself in that moment? I would argue that the vast majority of people won't even make the phone call. They won't even ask the person for a date. They won't even go for it because they're so caught up in this failure loop that I'm gonna feel bad. Like I talked about in my second book, right? Every action is 6 moves from death and dying. The reason why it isn't for me, in the early days of my life, I was very fortunate to be introduced to what someone called the science of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And inside of NLP, there's basically 16 presuppositions. Like, so if you were gonna be a therapist as an example, or a coach, there's 16 things we need to presuppose about human beings. And number 3, and I wanna read it exactly, is there is no such thing as failure, only feedback exists. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback exists. Think about it. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. What he got was 9,999 pieces of feedback to tell him how to not create a light bulb. I would ask you to consider, you need to start associating failure as feedback, mistakes as opportunities for growth. How do you become wise? Where does wisdom come from? It comes from experience. Generally speaking, most people will tell you experience is making mistakes, is screwing up. I think of the first time I did direct mail. I was inspired by my mentor at the time, Jay Abraham, and I convinced my business partner that we should mail out 150,000 mailers the first time. First class stamp, first class mailer, and guess what? 0 sales, no response. We got a lot of feedback. We learned that things like running it through the machine wasn't as good as hand-addressed, hand-stamped, as an example. I also got the feedback that I've discovered maybe we should start with 100 or 1,000. See, it's all about getting feedback. Are you listening to the feedback of the failures? Are you listening to the feedback of the failures? A thought I want you to get today, above and beyond everything else, is you want to become wise, you want to become extraordinary, it means you need to fail your face off, and you got to listen to the feedback, and when you do that, you win.